If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain! Or ride dune buggies through the desert! Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.
From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up!
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Azan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan Hajavandi in El Paso, Texas, joined by none other than the one, the only Corey S. Clark, senior writer for Warchant.com. He's back in Tallahassee, Florida. Use the promo code Warchant30 for 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey, final show of the month, of the year, of the decade. Right here, right now. No place I'd rather be than El Paso with you, with technology, bringing us close together.
No duh. How is the Paso, man? Are you having a good time out there?
Not going to lie. I like it, Corey. I mean, I didn't set the bar awfully high, but that said, I'm the guy that complains about everything, and there's really nothing to complain about. The bowl committee folks here, Corey, I'm gonna tip my cap to you. I think our reputation at Warchant preceded itself. They knew that Shreveport did not deliver. They drew the ire and the wrath of a one Corey Clark, and they didn't want to draw the wrath of the guy who does the podcast with them. And they've stepped it up. It's crazy how hospitable they are. They literally drove us to like a country western shop so Ira and I could go. Ira could get gift shop for the wife and kids, and I could maybe get myself a cowboy hat and stuff. And they'd give us food around the clock. It's pretty crazy, man. It's great to be back in a bowl game. You should come with us next year.
Next year, buddy. Next year. Now that everybody's coming back on the football team, we should be even somewhere better than El Paso next season, maybe.
Hopefully. So how crazy is that, Corey? I'm Tamorrion maybe to a certain extent. Okay, makes sense. It's a really deep receiver class. I still was awfully surprised to hear that he was coming back. But Marvin, absolutely shocked.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of the last time I was really stunned by a Florida State football player, maybe just an athlete in general, coming back for a senior year. I just can't think of one. It's not how college football is these days, right? Like when you're going to be drafted in the first few rounds, even if you're not a surefire first-round pick, and Marvin wasn't, but he was a surefire top 2 or 3 round pick, and that's a lot of money. And I just can't. Who would it have been? Who was the last person that came back that would have been a pretty high draft pick? I'm sure there is one I'm not thinking about, but right off the top of my head, maybe Cam Irving when he came back for his senior year in 2014. I think he would have been maybe a second round pick after the national championship season. But other than that, man, that's just really remarkable and awesome news for Florida State. And hopefully, I hope it pays off for him. I hope he has a great senior season, a monster season, and becomes a top 15 or 20 pick.
Yeah, my sort of thing.
But I was stunned.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, my thing was kind of trying to reconcile all of it. I guess maybe the same reasons he would come back are the same reasons that he should have left, if that makes sense. To me, it just seemed like, speaking about Marvin, 2 knee procedures he's had while he's been at Florida State, broke his hand. You're not to say that your body's failing you, but man, you've been banged up and this wasn't what you signed up for. You didn't sign up to come, 1,000 miles away from home to go 6-5, 6-6, things like that. So yeah, you would leave, but I guess maybe at the same time, the fact that he hasn't put together a full season on tape, maybe he definitely hasn't shown us what he's ultimately capable of doing. We've seen these great flashes, and I shouldn't say flashes. He's sustained, and when he's played, man, he's been great. But maybe he's just wanting to put a full year out there, and there has to be some belief that this is going to turn around and you want to be part of it and help it. At least I would think so.
Yeah, and you wonder how much if again, I'm not trying to take a shot at the former guy, but would both of these guys have made that decision if it was the same coaching staff coming back? I don't know. I'm not going to presume, but that's certainly right to question that. Either way, though, if they didn't believe in Norvell, I don't think whether they believed in Taggart or not, they obviously believe in the new guy enough to come back for one more. I mean, Terry's still going to be a junior, but we all expect he'll be gone after next year. That says a lot for what they're hearing from Norvell and how much, in my opinion, how much they believe in him. Now, a lot, some of it also has to do with whatever grades or feedback they got from the NFL. But still, as we've seen and we saw 2 years ago, there were a lot of guys that left 2 years ago that were seventh-round picks, barely got drafted at all, that probably didn't get great feedback from the NFL, but still left. Well, in fact, Florida State just had another one with Stanford Samuels. I don't know where he's going to get drafted, but he's certainly not a surefire first-round pick or a second-round pick for that matter. Who knows? But I do think it says something about maybe what Marvin and Tamorrion think about the new staff and the direction of the program to come back and turn down guaranteed money. It might be a great business decision for them. I hope it is. I hope they end up making a lot of money off this decision. But either way, it's great for Florida State, and it's really great for Norvell. I mean, when you think about the month he's had to hold on to almost all of the commitments, then to get the transfers he's gotten, which we haven't even talked about yet, and then to get the two best players on the team other than Akers to stay, man, you're talking about if you imagine having Marvin Wilson even for a year and Tamorrion Terry even for a year, along with the kid from Texas A&M, to the recruiting class he just signed. Well, now you're looking at a top 10 class. I mean, the Florida State all of a sudden with the announcement on Monday. To me, I was looking at 6-6 at best, and now I kind of look at it like 8-4 at worst. If those two guys stay healthy, I just think those two guys change everything. You have a dominant, unblockable guy on your defensive line, which was going to be a real. It didn't look like it was going to be a great position of strength for you. And now you got Durden, him, J-Rob, Kendo coming back. All of a sudden, you look at that defensive line and you're like, okay, that's a pretty darn talented defensive line if they stay healthy.
Coop, don't forget about Robert Cooper.
And then you have Terry coming back.
Yeah, don't forget about Robert
Cooper too. And then your wide receivers, you have you were going to have some talent, but a lot of unknowns. And now you're getting, for my money, one of the best receivers in the ACC coming back for his junior year. That's just a really, I think Norvell already had momentum within the fan base, but man, Monday was as good a day in December that the Florida State football team has had, and I don't know how long since Dalvin committed. Yeah. Maybe I guess that Michigan game was in December that year. Weirdly. So maybe that day. I mean, it was just a really good day for Florida State football.
I like how you're kind of framing it with these are almost kind of recruits that he's brought along, and if you tack that onto what he already brought in, where this class, quote unquote, would rank. When I was talking to Ira about it on the stand-up that we did, which is up on YouTube, I was like, was this the most important recruiting job that Mike Norvell did was to get Terry to stay around? Because I'm sure he also was instrumental in getting Marvin to stick around, but I would probably think that that's more like an internal thing, or at least Odell probably was a much more instrumental factor in Marvin's return. But Ira kind of politely disagreed with me and said that to his understanding, like Norvell, it wasn't a pitch. It wasn't, hey man, I need you. Look what we can do together. These are my great plans for you. It was more of a, you're an amazingly talented kid. This is going to be a really tough hole for us to all dig out of, but I want you to be here. But if you're going to stay here, this is what I need from you. And to kind of lay out, not a challenge, but to not coddle a kid. And this isn't a shot at the previous staff. Anybody would do this sort of stuff. I think that speaks volumes to kind of a bold style of leadership, because I'd beg Tamorrion Terry to stay. Like, please. But that to Ira's understanding,
tell me what I have to do, Tamorrion.
Exactly, but to Ira's understanding, it wasn't that. It wasn't calling a bluff or anything, but it was just, hey man, we'd love for you to stay, but this is what I need from you. It wasn't please. Well, And to me, that's a pretty bold move for a guy who's only been on the job for 2 weeks or whatever.
It was like Gene Hackman in Hoosiers when he's trying to get Jimmy Chitwood to come join the team.
Never seen Hoosiers.
He's like, hey man, I don't care if you, I don't care if you play or don't play. I'm still going to be the coach. I don't think it was quite that. I don't think he was throwing footballs to Terry and being like, hey man, if you play or don't play, it doesn't matter to me. Obviously, it matters to Norvell. He wanted him there, but I think he took the job probably thinking there was a very good chance that Marvin was gone. And a decent chance that Terry was gone. So yeah, man. I don't think those two guys. I've never gotten the impression from either one of those guys that they want to be coddled. So that's, and I don't think Taggart. I'm not sure that Taggart coddled them either. I don't know that they've ever been coddled, except probably during the recruiting process for Marvin, especially with all the honey fried chicken. But those two guys are, I think part of it. We'll never know the percentage of what was the NFL feedback and what was it trying to make a difference at Florida State. But I do think, and it almost really doesn't even matter. They're on the team. They're on the Florida State football team for 2020. And now you have legitimate early round NFL talent that is going to be on your team. You got to hope the offensive line is better. I know they got a good transfer from FIU. It just the whole shape, the whole feeling around the program has, in my opinion, done a complete 180 in the last month, but especially even the last week and a half when you had what he did on signing day, then the transfers, and now these two guys. It's just a lot of positive momentum, and he's not done. There'll be other transfers and there'll be other kids they get commitments from, and it just, I don't want to put too much into two kids' decisions to stay. But I do think it says a lot about their belief, or at least it says a little. It says something about their belief in the direction of the program again. And it makes it exciting, right? It doesn't happen. Again, I go back to that. Nobody expected Marvin Wilson to be coming back. In fact, I told Brady was on the phone FaceTiming with Shanna, who people that listen to this show, my ex-wife, his mom, is a really big Florida State fan. And I'm like, hey, did you tell Mama the good news? And he's like, oh, yeah, Marvin Wilson's coming back. And she goes, what? No, he's not. And it's like, Brady, yeah, he is. He's coming back. He said him and Terry. And Shanna was like, well, I kind of thought Terry might, but Marvin Wilson is coming back to college. Those were like, she couldn't believe it. It was just such stunning good news that this program hasn't had in a while. So, I don't think it's a national championship team, obviously. I watched that Clemson-Ohio State game. I don't think Florida State's quite on that level of those two programs. But I think it could have a nice year in 2020. And those two guys, if they stay healthy, are a huge part of the team. A huge part of the team. Just having Marvin Wilson around the program for another year is a really big deal, man. That guy is a leader. He works hard. He busts his butt. He is a great example for all the younger guys to follow. That is a really big deal to have him around the program for another year. Not that that's stunning news.
Yeah. Group text with my brother and his friends. My brother starts it off with nuts and then a screenshot of the Warchant.com story about Marvin coming back with Tamorrion. His buddy replies, A right. From what I'm reading and seeing, I like this guy and think we made the right hire. The group text message with my friends on Slack. My buddy says, 7 fire emojis, get that and then another says boom, and the other says big time. So there's a lot of enthusiasm, Corey.
Yeah, a lot of cursing too. I hope your group texts don't usually include that much cursing.
Got to be colorful with things. Hey, I don't want to detour.
Right,
I'll detour later in the show. Let's keep it rolling. We've spoke about myself and Ira on the podcast the other day, which you wanted to be part of, but I just forgot the whole fact that I'm 2 hours behind you and wasn't going to be ready to record until 3 a.m. But what are your thoughts on Jay Sean Corbin from Texas A&M running back transferring in, as well as Devontae Taylor, the Conference USA honorable mention tackle who started the last 13 games for FIU? I guess, what does that kind of add to this overall picture and to the pieces that Mike Norvell's been configuring here in the last few weeks?
Yeah, it's more positive steps. To me, it's not nearly as big a deal as what happened on Monday. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows about the A&M kid? I do know that he had a nice season his freshman year, right?
Right.
And then was hurt most of this year.
Yeah, he jumped out to like a 100-yard rushing game in their Patsy opener, and then I think either in the Clemson game he either injured himself then or after. He was the starting tailback those first 2 weeks for them, and then he tore his hamstring. So he looked really good, though, that freshman year, to your point. I agree.
Yeah. So, but that again, another big deal because you're obviously losing one of the best running backs in school history, and you have no depth, which the game today – people listen to this. I don't even know what they're going to do running the ball. I guess it's going to be a lot of maybe Wild Trav or DJ Matt. I don't know what they're going to do, but and it doesn't matter. Like again, we've talked about it. It's the most meaningless game Florida State has ever played. They could lose 65-8, which would not be a great look. Obviously, you wouldn't want that. But Tamorrion Terry and Marvin Wilson are coming back, man. Like it's all about next year, and there's nothing you can really put into this game later on today. There's no stock you can put in it. It's just so bizarre. You don't have some of your best players playing. Half your coaching staff is leaving. So there's not much you can take away from this game. But when it comes to the transfers, man, yeah, that's a good sign. I wasn't even a joke. Me and you talked all season about they had to hit the transfer portal and hit it hard, go to every conference and try to get the best available kid that can transfer and play immediately and get them on your team. The FIUs of the worlds, the Marshalls of the worlds, the Northern Illinois of the worlds. Go and get – there's linemen there that can play better than the ones you got, some of them anyway. So I think it's nice, man. And again, everything seems to be happening so quickly.
Yeah.
Like not the announcements, but for him to put together a staff so quickly. And they're all staffed up, right, except for one spot now?
Yep.
Yeah. And then they're already getting transfers. Like 3 of them, right? 3 or 4 of them? Like they got the kid from Louisville too?
Oh, yeah, the defensive lineman. I forget how quickly we forget. Yeah.
Yeah, that's old news.
Right.
That's just old. That's like 8 days old news now. So it's all so encouraging that so many things are happening so quickly. Like there's a real plan in place. They're doing all their due diligence. He had ideas as soon as he got here or reached out to people. And the fact that they got the Chubba Purdy kid in over a weekend, and then they're getting all these other commitments, transfer or otherwise, within a span of 2 weeks, and then they got these 2 kids to return for their last years of college, all in the span of 2 weeks. It's just really encouraging, and it feels like people are really buying into his vision and his staff's vision, and his staff is putting in a lot of work to just within 2 or 3 weeks. Seems to have reshaped the roster. Now, there's still going to be mostly kids that we've all seen play before, but they're really reshaping the roster, and it seems like when you add the recruits and the transfers, you're going to have, I don't know, upwards of 25, 28, 30 new kids on this team, and that's what you need. You needed a bit of a purge, and you need an influx of talent, and you need an influx of talent that can play right away. And with a Louisville transfer, with a Texas A&M transfer, I don't know. Is he going to be able to play? Is he going to get a waiver? We don't know, I guess.
He's applying for one. Applying for one, but we don't know whether it'll be approved, obviously.
But, it just says nothing but good things about how hard the staff is working, in my opinion, to identify guys that would be interested and that can help in going through with it and selling the program and selling your vision enough that within a week or 2 or 3 weeks or a month of him being the coach, he's got these guys committed. Just, again, all really encouraging so far. With the caveat, just like I had 2 years ago, let's see what it looks like on Saturdays. But I don't know that he could have done more in a month from staff-wise, just getting one together so quickly. And obviously having a bit of a plan in place. Staff-wise and then recruiting, transfer, guys coming back to school-wise, it's been a home run so far, man. It's hard not to be excited. I tell you, man, I assumed you watched the Clemson-Ohio State game?
Correct, yes.
It's an unbelievable game with 2 great programs.
Yep.
And you're watching that. I know people listening to this were watching that. I was watching it, and I'm watching it wistfully. Like, golly, remember those days? Yeah. Weren't those so much fun to cover? Weren't those days being at that level, playing in games like this, with the world, with the nation watching? Probably not the world. I don't know that, people in Asia are probably watching much of Clemson and Ohio State, but a lot of the country watching a great game between two great programs. And you're like, you know what? And I've said this before, but it makes you wistful of when Florida State was that program and when Florida State was in those games. And it's about time they get back to it. So hopefully this month, this 3-week area here, we might look back on this 3-week stretch in 2 or 3 or 4 years like we did that stretch right at the end of 2009 going into 2010 when LaMarcus Joyner, Jeff Luke, Telvin Smith all started joining the program. And that, to me, is kind of when it flipped, when Florida State got back on the track and started humming towards championships again. Maybe we'll look back at this 3-week stretch the same way.
Funny how you say you looked at that game and with a sort of wistful feeling. I looked at it, I kind of joked to Ira. I was like, you know what, man? I'm like, maybe it's not that bad, covering a team that sucks because it's a lot easier on your heart and your nerves. I couldn't imagine, like that national title game. I've said it so many times, the 2013 national title game against Auburn. I was such a nervous wreck the entire. I was at the game. And I just thought we were going to absolutely cruise to a win and, let's get this whole coronation underway. And for it to be such a dogfight for as long as it was, I almost couldn't really savor and fully enjoy it as much as I had dreamed I was going to. So, yeah, like being an Ohio State Clemson fan, like that game, good Lord. Like when Clemson scored, I'm like, they scored too early. I'm like, what a bunch of idiots. Like that would have been my thought. If I was a Clemson fan, I wouldn't even have celebrated. I'd be like, why did we score so quick? Ohio State's got way too much time. But I guess, that's those good problems to have. Blood pressure going up, but over a good game as opposed to blood pressure because you put 12 men out on the field again.
6-6, this isn't any fun. I'm sure you're having fun in El Paso. I'd love to see Ira in boots, in a hat, doing tequila shots and eating ribeyes. That would be fun. Maybe it's a fun destination for a couple of days. But man, this isn't. These last 3 years have just been. It's just been such a grind and a kick in the gut. Yeah. That it's not fun. They need to get out of this rut, and hopefully, like I said, they're not going to be Clemson or Ohio State anytime in the next 24 months. But this stretch right here, because you get Marvin Wilson and Tamorrion Terry back, I'm sure you're going to get some other transfers, and all of a sudden you have a roster that's probably an 8 or 9 win roster. And if you can win 8 games and beat a team you're not supposed to beat and play other teams really competitively, and then that obviously helps you on the recruiting trail moving forward, and that just gives your program so much more momentum that by 2022, maybe you're where Florida State was in 2012, 2013. Maybe. But this is a good start. You got to win games on Saturdays, too. The recruiting is great, but getting those 2 guys to come back makes you – what do you think they're worth? Do you think they're worth an extra win apiece? Maybe 1.5 wins between them?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Like a 6-win team, an 8-win team because of them?
Yeah. I'm with that.
Yeah, I think Terry just changes the whole offense.
Absolutely.
Like you got a guy, they've got a double team, and then the same thing with Marvin in the middle. And then again, you've also got Kando, J-Rob. You're going to have a very experienced, very big defensive line. Linebackers are still an issue. We'll see about the secondary. Obviously, the offensive line is an issue. But you've got some really strong pieces going in the next season that you didn't think you were going to have. Just, it's a really cool Christmas present for Norvell.
I'm really excited. Let's take a break. I need to calm down. We'll be right back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. Corey, I didn't want to detour during a really good meat and potatoes football talk. The tweet of Baby Brady with Solomon Ellaby and then Brady Today with Devin Vassell filled my heart. I don't know if Steph will go for this. But can you and Shannon maybe can you make another Brady and can I take care of it for like the first 6 years of its life, and then we'll figure something else out? Like I want a baby Brady to hang out with What an adorable kid he was.
I could. He was a cute baby, man. He was a really cute baby. And no, Shanna nor Stephanie would go for that.
Okay.
I don't think us procreating again, or Shanna's husband.
Oh, that's right. I
wouldn't
forgot
go for
about
that. But I appreciate the thought. He was a really cute kid. He's still a cute-ish kid, but they start going through those awkward preteen years. But yeah, for my money, from like age 1 month to about 4, there might not have ever been a cuter kid on the planet than Brady.
Yeah.
Now you wanted to strangle him half the time because he would not shut up or sit down. But once he started learning to walk, but really, really cute kid. And I've forgotten what I showed that picture to Leonard after the game on Saturday. I'm like, hey, you see that? Because Brady was with me at the game, and I had to bring him back for the press conference. But he was sitting in the back. I don't know what he was doing, looking at the stats, I think. And I was like, hey, man, you see this kid that Solomon's holding? And Leonard laughed. I was like, that's him right there. He's like, wow. Yeah. It's just, it makes you feel so old, man. Like, where does the time go? Yeah, for the people that don't know that are on Twitter, I posted a picture. Brady, when I was the first year of Brady's life, I wasn't really a stay-at-home dad because I still had a job, but I watched him because Shanna worked. So when I went to basketball interviews, I would take him with me, and then I would leave him essentially with the two secretaries that were in the office while I went and interviewed Leonard and a few of the players because I couldn't hold them and do interviews at the same time, obviously. So anyway, one of the days, unbeknownst to me, they had Solomon Alabi. If you don't remember him, he was the 7'1", really good Nigerian center that played in the NBA for a little while. That was good at Florida State for a couple of years. They had him hold him, and it just looks. And the way Brady's looking at Solomon, he's head high. He's probably 14 pounds, 18. I think he was like 6 months old. It's just a really awesome picture. It's a really cute picture. And then I had him take a picture today with Devin Vassell. Because Devin's from the same area up in Atlanta where Brady is. So I thought that would be cool to have a picture of that. And then I posted them together, and it really makes me wonder where the time went and really talk about wistful. Like, where did the last decade go? Holy moly. Golly. But it's cool. It's cool that I have that picture. It's cute. Cute kid.
Check him out on
Twitter.
And
I'll ask Shanna. She might be down to have another one.
Check him out on Twitter, Corey with an E_Clark, and you can see the photo. Or I think I retweeted it, or maybe I didn't. I don't know. It's on Twitter. Check it out, everybody. Get on Twitter. It's 2020 almost. Join the revolution.
It is almost. By the way, did you see the story I posted right after that about Trent Forrest?
I have not. No, I'll get on it right now.
So this was funny. I'll do it real quick. We were walking out of the arena after the game on Saturday. And I said, hey, and Trent was like 10 steps ahead of us. Like, hey, Trent, can you come here for a sec? Because Brady's he plays baseball. That's probably his best sport, but he loves basketball. He loves watching it. And he's a pretty good little player. He just doesn't practice a lot. I'm like, dude, you need to practice dribbling like 25 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. And he just shoots, whatever. He doesn't practice really as hard as he probably should. Just by yourself, because that's the beauty of basketball. You can practice by yourself. Anyway, so I was like, Trent, hey, man, when you were Brady's age, when you were in the 6th grade, how often did you practice? And Trent's like, oh, every day. And he knew I was trying to teach a lesson to my kid, too, as we walked out. He's like, oh, yeah. He goes, I would do my homework first, which was a nice thing for him to add. Plus, it's not a lie. Trent's a really good student. He goes, I would do my homework first, and then I would go out and practice for like hours a day. And I go, you would even do it by yourself, right? You didn't have to have a dad out there or your teammates or friends. Like, oh, no. He goes, you just have to be creative. You have to come up with your games to help you dribble, to help you shoot. Come up with games to challenge yourself and to be creative and just work really hard, and you get a lot better. And I'm like, see, Brady, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. And then I go, hey, Trent, by the way, when was the first time you dunked in a game? And he goes, oh, it was the summer between my 6th and 7th grade year. And Brady goes, well, that ain't happening. And that was basically the end of the conversation. Once he heard, because, Trent's a little bit different athlete than Brady Clark.
A little bit.
So that kind of went against everything I was just trying to teach him. Like, hey, man, if you work really hard and practice every day, you could be playing at Florida State one day. And then he's told that the guy he's talking to dunked when he was his age. And Brady literally, I'm not sure Brady can jump over a phone book. So I think the lesson was lost a little bit. But for the people listening to this, just know that Trent Forrest is an awesome kid. Really nice, went out of his way to try to build up Brady and give him advice. And all of them, MJ Walker, Raekwon Gray, they're all really good with Brady. Not that anybody cares, but maybe you do.
Hey, one thing
Could you ever dunk? You're an athlete. You're wiry.
No, I can touch rim, but I can't grab and hold on to it. Nah, I couldn't dunk. I got smallish hands. I can't palm the ball either.
You couldn't maybe a tennis ball?
Yeah, maybe a tennis ball.
Yeah, you look like you could jump.
Yeah, appreciate that, Corey.
Thanks.
Hey, so Ira and I, again, these are things that he and I spoke about, but it's your show, so let's get your thoughts on it. How crazy.
What was it like doing it with Ira? What was that show like? I didn't listen to it. I apologize. I'll probably go back and listen to it on my run.
It's just nerve-wracking, man. It's Ira Schofel. It's 5-star. It's a managing editor. It's the guy who knows everything, and he tells you stuff, and you want him to tell the world, but you know there's some things that he can't tell the world, so you have to kind of be careful of what you're asking him so that he doesn't, give up sources and stuff. But it was delightful, man. I love Ira. We're really getting close out here. I think he's kind of getting creeped out by it, but it's been great. I love Ira. Not as much as you.
What's been the highlight? Give me one highlight.
Oh, the steak.
Highlight. Was it going and the steak?
Steak dinner. The steak dinner that we went on. There's a video. You should check it out. Your girlfriend did. She liked it.
I will.
She retweeted it too.
I will.
Yeah. So that was good. We'll see though. I think the highlight will be the victory. I'm starting to slowly kind of creep over to the fence of, Arizona State. They're not going to have their number one receiver, their number one running back. They cleaned house on offense, got rid of their receivers coach, their OC, their DC left for New Mexico. They got 2 coordinators. I think they got co-coordinators on both offense and defense. And I don't know, part of me just kind of wants, I refuse to believe that Harlan Barnett is this horrible. And sorry, Harlan, that is a backhanded compliment. And I don't know, maybe there's got to be a sort of go for broke mentality. And people might say, well, where the hell was that the last few weeks? Like, why wouldn't you have gone for broke against Florida? I don't know. I think part of you realizes that you're way overmanned and nothing short of a miracle would be able to pull that win off. But you look at Arizona State and you're like, man, we can probably pull this off. And if you're a guy like Harlan, you probably have some irons in the fire and some jobs, lined up, or at least some friends that you're hoping can help you out. But man, go out there and just, create 2 turnovers. Get 4 tackles for loss and don't have any terrible blown coverages and stuff. I mean, just go out there and as crazy as it sounds with Odell being like, hey, man, Mike Norvell told us to come out here and have fun, so we're going to have fun. I don't know, man. Go run around and have fun. I would like to think that you got some athletes that can hang with Arizona State. And Tamorrion Terry, let's get on some of these preseason watch lists for 2020 with a 8-catch, 195-yard, 3-touchdown effort. If that guy from LSU caught 4 touchdown passes, you can do 3. Come on, Tamorrion. I love you. You can do it. Let's go.
By the way, how about that game?
Ooh.
What an embarrassment.
Ooh.
Would you rather – I know this sounds like a jokey question, and it is for the most part. But would you rather win the Sun Bowl or give up 8 touchdowns to a quarterback in the playoff game?
Oh, man. Yeah,
that was such an embarrassment.
Yeah. It's that whole, like, would you rather win the NIT or would you rather lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament kind of thing?
I don't think there's any question there. You'd rather lose in the first round.
Yeah.
But in this, but to get just wholly embarrassed, and to get humiliated, to have no answers at all on how to even slow them down. Like, why weren't you onside kicking every time? Why did you ever punt? It didn't matter. Like, the only way Oklahoma was even going to stay in the game is if they scored 45 points. But if they had done that, LSU would have scored 90. So it was just, I guess it won't affect them moving on. Like, they're still always going to take probably the Big 12 champ if they're undefeated or with 1 loss. But, I mean, I know they made it close with Kyler Murray the year before against Alabama, but weren't they down in that game like 31-0?
Yeah, it was ugly. Yeah, they kind of, I think they got within maybe 2 scores that game, but yeah, they still were well behind and did not appear to be of the same caliber of Alabama.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess you still would rather be there. You're playing in a playoff game, but goodness gracious, was that just a travesty? Yeah. Like, they should have just had a bye. Like, just give them a bye. I mean, that was they essentially did. Like, they literally could have scored 100 points. And I know Burrow's good, really good, and he's got really good receivers. But man, you're Oklahoma. Get some guys that can play defense. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Bruce Warwick, the ops guy, chief of staff. I mean, you got Mike Norvell walking into Los Angeles. I mean, going to the NFL teams and being like, I'm going to pull this guy away from you, all right? Sean McVay, is that cool? Thanks, man. Later. What's going on? This is crazy. Like, all this great momentum. I mean,
do we have do we have any clarification? Again, I didn't listen to the show. Maybe Ira know. I'm sure Ira knows more than I do. But folks, you still like me. You still love me. I mean, Ira's a nice fill-in, but that's like having a cool substitute teacher that recites a couple poems for you that you really like or something, or plays hip hop music in English class. But he's still just a substitute teacher.
Yeah.
I'm the real thing. I'm the guy you have the real relationship with.
That's
I'm
right.
the guy you wake up every day to hear.
Wake up!
Don't start longing for Ira Chappelle. You're just going to be disappointed. But did Ira have any insight into what this guy's role will be? I don't think I've ever heard of a chief of staff on a college football team.
I want to say I think Boston College calls it that. He did say it's probably going to be something similar to the, it's not fun. I think it's director of football operations. It was Greg Robinson, I think, the guy that was with Jimbo that he took to A&M. But it sounds like an expanded role with probably people working underneath him. Much in the same way like a chief of staff operates for a president, where he's kind of getting, the secretary of the state and all these other folks, kind of everybody, one-voiced and kind of organized. But, even Ira even was saying that this is going to be kind of a new development, maybe some uncharted territory for Florida State as well. But it sounds like a guy that's going to definitely be taking most everything off of Mike Norvell's plate that's not going to involve actual kind of, game planning, nuts and bolts, I'm a head football coach sort of stuff. So, I think a lot of this is it's just crazy to me that they signed Mike Norvell for this price tag. Again, I think it's a huge discount. I know he's getting double what he was getting at Memphis. And it appears that, it wasn't being cheap. Not that I thought it was, but I thought maybe there was some benefit of, hey, we're going to have to pay Taggart out all this money, and then let's get the guy with a low buyout that might believe in himself, and then we'll revisit this in 2-3 years and see where we go. And I think Ira kind of mentioned that David Coburn said there is a blueprint for the amount of money they can use for support staff. We don't have an exact figure. But this definitely sounds like a guy who's not only kind of betting on himself, or not, he's investing in the infrastructure around him to help build him up, which I think is really cool. There's no way you're pulling a guy away from the LA Rams by matching his salary. Or maybe it is because the income tax and all that kind of stuff. But to have all these things in place, man, to move your family, which we don't talk about, and it's a real thing, man. Like, you're a dude, and you got a daughter, and you got a wife, and you got to move them, and you got to recruit a bunch of kids. You got to go get quarterbacks that aren't on the roster, that aren't being recruited. You got to flip those kids. You got to put the entire class together. You have to start doing one-on-one interviews with all your players that are going to come back, and even some of the guys that aren't going to be back. Kendall said he had a one-on-one with Norvell. Norvell's having to hire an entire new staff. Like, to put all these things in place and to be pulling guys that have pretty good pedigree is extremely impressive. And again, just it feeds into the optimism that I think a lot of people want to be cautious because everybody dove head first when it came to Willie. But I think a lot of that was just the jiltedness over Jimbo. And I think a lot of the optimism with Norvell is juxtaposed against, you have to compare Willie to Jimbo, and you're going to compare Norvell to Willie. It's just the way it works. That upsets people for some reason, but it just seems like there is a plan and there's a vision that's being executed, and it's not like, hey, we're Florida State, we're going to figure this thing out because we're Florida State, and that's what happens around here. It's like, I got an idea, I got a plan for what I want things to look like, and it's coming to fruition pretty seamlessly and easily. So that makes it even doubly more impressive.
Yeah, the one gripe, and it's not much of a gripe, but the one gripe I have had through these first 2 or 3 weeks is I do think that, well, we'll just see how it plays out. I do think he has leaned a little bit too much on guys that he coached with at Memphis.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's brought the DBs coach, he brought the DC, he brought the strength coach,
yep,
his OC. Like, it's a lot of guys that he had coached with, and I get it because he knows he knows those guys. He knows what he's getting out of those guys. Maybe the strength and conditioning coach at Memphis was awesome. It's hard for me to believe necessarily that that's the best guy Florida State could get. But again, I'm completely ignorant of that. So take all of this with a lot of grains of salt. He might be awesome, and Norvell certainly knows more than I do. But again, if I was going to be a little concerned about one thing, it is that it's a lot of bringing a lot of guys with him. But that's also just the nature of the job. Jimbo already had his kind of core already in place when he got the job because he had been here for 3 years. So that's the difference. Willie obviously brought a lot of guys with him, and it didn't work out. That does not mean that it won't work out for Norvell. But the same, I have to be consistent. And if it was an issue I had with Willie in hindsight that he brought too many of his own guys, and then now we're looking at Norvell's staff, and you're looking at 3 or 4 of the same guys that were with him, coming with him, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. He's got a lot of guys that he's coached with coming with him. Then that's a reason when what we just went through to be a little maybe not critical because it's his. He trusts these guys, and I'm sure they can all coach. But it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe like, okay, was this the best hire or the easiest hire? I don't think Mike Norvell works that way necessarily. I don't think he just goes for the easiest hire. He really does believe in these guys. But if there was going to be one critique about the early part of his tenure, I do think that, the DC at Florida State, the strength and conditioning coach at Florida State, the DB's coach at Florida State, those are really sought after. Exactly. Those are really sought after high-level positions. And did you do your due diligence in getting the best person for Florida State? Because it's not Memphis. You're hiring from a bigger pool. So did you? And I'm not saying he didn't. This might be a great, great staff. But I just feel like I need to be consistent because if we were going to complain that Willie brought his own guys, then that you have to do the same thing for Norvell. Again, you point out, though, that a lot of these guys had careers long before Mike Norvell.
Exactly.
Ever got into their lives. Ever entered. That's the difference, right? That's the context.
Yeah.
They had careers, good careers, ever before they entered Mike Norvell's orbit. And I don't necessarily think you could say the same thing about Willie. But, yeah, overall, man, I think the difference is when you talk about the excitement level, because, yeah, man, I was doing cartwheels. I'll be honest. I was doing cartwheels 2 years ago with the Willie Taggart hire. But I think in hindsight, it was more because of what he wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't Jimbo. And that's not really a way to judge a football coach or a football staff. But I was so excited about a guy that was easy to talk to, that recruited at a really high level at Oregon, and then was that first 3 weeks recruited at a really high level at Florida State. It's easy to get excited there. But the coaches he brought in, even though I feel like I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I can understand how it seemed that way. They weren't maybe of the same caliber that Norvell is bringing in. Again, the difference being that a lot of these guys were at other schools. They worked with Norvell. They were moving up in the ranks, but they had made their bones at other schools before they fell into Norvell's orbit. I just think, and now that we know what to look for organizationally wise, because we really didn't 2 years ago when we were all in love with Taggart. Now that you see how different this start has been as far as coaching hires, transfers, guys coming back to school, that to me is what could get you really excited about Norvell, and that to me is what maybe feels a little different than the first month or two under Taggart. Like maybe a little more substance instead of style, because Taggart said all the right things and was great and did the chop and even did the circle at the spring game and
back, yeah,
all that stuff. He brought Andrews around, did a lot of really good things, but organizationally, coaching staff wise, and recruiting wise, as we found out later as we went, it wasn't the most structured, organized program in the country. Norvell seems to be hitting all the right notes there too. He obviously has a plan in place. He's bringing a chief of staff, for crying out loud, like he's the president. So yeah, that was a lot of talk, basically saying nothing. I just kind of repeated myself over and over again. But I don't care. That's what you got about me.
Yeah, I mean, if it's being consistent and the fact that there may be a little bit of not concern, but maybe some pause or pump the brakes a little bit. Hey, he is bringing a bunch of guys that he knows, but Ira kind of pointed it out, and you also articulated it there a little bit ago. Just that there is obviously nuance to this. These are guys that let's be honest, Mike Norvell hasn't been a head coach for 9 years. These aren't guys that have followed him around for 7 years. These are guys that coached them for 2-3 years, went somewhere else, and he's like, hey, come back. And they're like, okay. So it's definitely a bit of a different dynamic. And speaking to that point, it seems like the last position, which is probably going to be the running backs coach, it sounds like the current Tennessee running backs coach, David Johnson, is emerging as maybe the lead candidate on that. And he actually did coach with Norvell in 16 and 17 in Memphis as the pass game coordinator and wide receivers coach. He was receivers coach at Tennessee in 18. This past season, he moved to running backs, I guess, because Winkie left running backs to go coach quarterbacks, which makes sense. So, again, that's a different guy. Yeah, he coached with Norvell, but hey, man, Tennessee went and got him. Division I, Power 5, SEC program went and got this guy. So it gives more credence. It gives more credibility.
What do we say about that? Like how long has he been at Tennessee? 2 or 3 years?
2 years.
So he's had to recruit through 2 recruiting cycles at Tennessee against who they recruit against. To me, man, you can't put a price tag on that. That is a big deal. It's a running backs coach. Who was Dalvin Cook's running backs coach? And how much coaching was he really getting other than, hey, man, try to make that dude miss and then go score a touchdown? It's a running backs coach. It's not the most pivotal spot on the field. That position has to be able to recruit. And all these guys have to be able to recruit. But you have to have guys that have done this at this level before. And he's sprinkled enough of those into his coaching staff that gives you a lot of hope, right? Dillingham, it was only a year, but he did it for a year at Auburn. This guy's been at Tennessee for 2 years. Guys at Arizona State that have had to recruit out west. You should have ties. You're going to have ties in Texas. You're going to have ties out west. You're going to have ties in Florida. It mostly in Florida is where you need the best ties, but that'll be established because you're the head coach of Florida State. That'll take care of itself in due time if you put a good product on the field. But it's just good to have coaches with kind of footprints all around the country too, in my opinion. Yeah. We'll see how it works out, but I do think that, again, if they got a guy from Tennessee, that would be a really good hire. I know it's because he worked with them at Memphis, but yeah, he was good enough that Tennessee wanted him. Mm-hmm. So that's a positive sign. And he's recruited at that level against those guys that you got to recruit against. That's a big deal.
2 p.m. Eastern time, noon local time here, the Sun Bowl, final game of the decade, 2019, Florida State versus Arizona State. If I was a betting man, I probably would put a lot of money in Arizona State, but I host a podcast that talks about Florida State, so I'm going to say the Florida State's going to win.
You just said you were feeling better and better about it.
Yeah, but still, money's money. But no, I am feeling better about it. Corey, what are you going to do for the game? What's your plan?
So that's a good story. So Florida State, the basketball team, plays Georgia Tech. They return to ACC action at noon Eastern Standard Time on New Year's Eve, which is just an odd time for an ACC basketball game. So I'll be covering that game.
Awesome.
And then right afterwards, I'm going to get in the car with Brady and Stephanie and drive up to Atlanta for a New Year's Eve party and to hang out there for a few days. So I'll be watching it, I guess, on my iPad.
Okay.
Or listening to it on the XM.
All right. Solid.
Those are my plans.
Okay.
But what's the weather like? So you got to see a little snow out there?
Yeah, it snowed. I think Saturday night. Yeah, flurries came down. It was great. It's been really cold the last 2 days. It gets the wind. The wind starts coming in between the. So apparently the Rocky Mountains and the Sierra Madre mountain range are both. There's like a confluence, or they both kind of like join or meet or whatever the geological term is out here in El Paso. But otherwise, it's been sunny. Like not a cloud in the sky. Beautiful blue sky, sunny. And now it's getting up into like highs in the 50s, but like lows in the 30s. So I mean, it's January, December weather in non-Florida, and it's I packed for it, so I'm comfortable. I'm delighted. I'm really having a good time, man. I think it's going to propel me to a good 2020. But the only way I can make sure of that is if I get a good pep talk from my guy. So Corey, don't make it too personal. Let's not take too many shots at me. What do I need to do? What do we all need to do to make the most of the days ahead of us as we approach a new decade in this crazy thing we call life?
Yeah, that's a great lead in, great transition teaser. I appreciate that. And looking at the pictures of Brady from 10 years ago and now, it makes you realize how fleeting it all is. How you really need to embrace every day. So for you personally, obviously get a cat.
Okay.
Keep hanging on Tinder. That's gonna pay off eventually. I promise you. And approach every day like it's your last, because you never know when it will be. That doesn't mean you just run roughshod over everyone and scream at people and stab them, because there's not going to be no repercussions because you're about to die. I don't want you to live your life that way, but just embrace everything. Tell people that you love them. Tell people that you hate, hey, man, I don't love you. In fact, you don't want to tell people you hate them, but don't tell them you love them if you don't. This has gone off the rails. I have no idea what I'm saying. It's really hard to do these things off the cuff, especially when there's so much weight on it because it's the last one of the decade.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm just going to leave you with this. Noles +5.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah, buddy.
I love you, man.
Ditto.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.